I'm Morgan, 32, a single mom to my wonderful 6-year-old son, Ethan. Right now, I'm driving away from my parents' house, tears streaming down my face while Ethan sits quietly in the back seat. Today was supposed to be a joyful Thanksgiving celebration. Instead, I was publicly humiliated and kicked out because my sister Amanda doesn't want to see me. The worst part? I've been paying my parents' bills for the past 5 years. Before I tell you how my family broke my heart today, let me know where you're watching from. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to hear more stories about family betrayal and how I finally stood up for myself and my son. Growing up, I always thought we were a close-knit family. My parents, Robert and Catherine, my younger sister Amanda, and me. We lived in a modest suburban home in Connecticut, had Sunday dinners together, and took annual summer vacations to the beach. From the outside, we probably looked like the perfect American family. But beneath the surface, there was always an undercurrent I couldn't quite name until I was older. Amanda was born when I was 4 years old. I remember being so excited to have a baby sister. My parents took me to the hospital, and I brought a little stuffed bunny I'd saved my allowance to buy. Even at that young age, I wanted to be the best big sister possible. I still have photos of me holding baby Amanda, looking at her with pure adoration. As we grew up, though, I started noticing differences in how our parents treated us. When Amanda cried, everyone rushed to comfort her. When I did, I was told to be a big girl. When Amanda struggled in school, our parents hired tutors and had long conversations with her teachers. When I got straight A's, it was simply expected. That's just how Morgan is, my mother would say to her friends. She's our responsible one. At first, I took pride in being the responsible child. I studied hard, joined every extracurricular activity I could, and helped around the house without being asked. Meanwhile, Amanda developed a knack for manipulation. She'd break something and blame me. She'd cry until she got what she wanted. She'd create drama where there was none. And our parents enabled it all. Your sister is more sensitive, they'd explain when I questioned the double standard. She needs more attention. By high school, the pattern was firmly established. I was captain of the debate team, editor of the school newspaper, and on track for a scholarship. Amanda was popular but constantly in trouble, skipping classes, getting caught with alcohol, coming home past curfew. Each time, our parents would make excuses for her behavior. She's just finding herself, they'd say. After graduation, I attended State University on a partial scholarship, double majoring in business and finance. I worked part-time jobs to cover the rest of my expenses. Amanda, 2 years behind me, barely graduated high school and immediately started community college, which our parents paid for entirely. During my junior year of college, I met Jason. He was charming, ambitious, and seemed to genuinely care about me. We dated for almost 2 years before getting married right after graduation. I was 22, maybe too young, but I was in love and believed we could build a wonderful life together. I landed a job at a respected financial advisory firm, while Jason worked in marketing. We bought a small starter home and started planning for our future. When I got pregnant with Ethan a year later, we were ecstatic. Everything seemed perfect until it wasn't. When I was 7 months pregnant, I discovered Jason had been cheating with a coworker. The betrayal crushed me. After several failed attempts at counseling, we divorced when Ethan was just 3 months old. Suddenly, I was a single mother with a demanding career and a newborn. Those first few years were the hardest of my life. I'd work all day, pick up Ethan from daycare, and spend my evenings caring for him while answering work emails after he fell asleep. Weekends were filled with laundry, meal prep, and trying to give Ethan some semblance of normal childhood experiences. Through it all, my parents helped occasionally with babysitting but were often too busy, usually with something related to Amanda, who by then had dropped out of community college and was bouncing between minimum wage jobs and boyfriends. Despite the challenges, I persevered. By the time Ethan was 3, I had been promoted twice and was finally earning enough to feel financially secure. I bought a more comfortable home in a good school district and was building a solid future for my son. Then, 5 years ago, everything changed. My father had a heart attack. It wasn't severe, but it was a wake-up call. During his recovery, I learned my parents were in serious financial trouble. Years of supporting Amanda, combined with poor financial planning and my father's reduced work capacity, had left them facing possible foreclosure on their home. Without hesitation, I stepped in. I paid off their most pressing debts and started covering their mortgage and utilities. I set up automatic transfers for their monthly bills and added them to my health insurance as dependents. When their car broke down, I helped them finance a new one. When they needed a new roof, I paid for it. All told, I've spent over $120,000 supporting them in the past 5 years. Meanwhile, Amanda's life continued its chaotic trajectory. She'd move in with a new boyfriend, get a job, seem stable for a few months, then the relationship would implode and she'd be back at our parents' house, unemployed and depressed. She developed substance abuse issues, bouncing between alcohol and prescription medications, occasionally attending rehab programs that our parents, meaning my money, paid for. Through it all, I maintained a relationship with my parents, primarily for Ethan's sake. I wanted him to have grandparents in his life to experience that special bond. Every other Sunday, we'd visit for dinner. I'd listen to my mother's subtle criticisms of my parenting, my father's political rants, and Amanda's latest drama when she bothered to show up. "You're so lucky, Morgan," my mother would often say. "Everything comes so easily to you." I'd bite my tongue, thinking about the 60-hour work weeks, the nights spent crying from exhaustion, the constant struggle of being everything to Ethan while building my career. Nothing had come easily. I'd earned every bit of stability through pure determination and hard work. But family is family, I told myself. So I kept showing up, kept paying their bills, kept hoping that somehow we'd evolve into the loving, supportive family I'd always wanted. That hope lasted until this Thanksgiving. This year I was actually excited about Thanksgiving. Ethan is 6 now, old enough to really participate in holiday traditions and create lasting memories. I'd planned to host dinner at my house, something I'd never done before. I wanted to start our own traditions, to make our home the center of family gatherings. 3 weeks before Thanksgiving, I called my parents to invite them. "Actually, honey," my mother said, "we were thinking we'd host this year. Your father is feeling much better, and we want to have everyone over like the old days." I was disappointed but didn't argue. "Sure, Mom. That sounds nice. Should I bring anything?" "Just yourselves," she said cheerfully. "And maybe your cranberry sauce. Everyone loves that." The week before Thanksgiving, I threw myself into preparation mode. I took Ethan shopping for new outfits, a cute button-up shirt and khaki pants for him, a burgundy sweater dress for me. We picked out thoughtful gifts for everyone. A nice bottle of whiskey for my father, a cashmere scarf for my mother, and even a gift card to Amanda's favorite clothing store, though I wasn't sure if she'd attend. I made my cranberry sauce from scratch, using my grandmother's recipe with orange zest and a touch of cinnamon. Ethan helped, standing on a stool at the counter, carefully measuring ingredients while wearing the child-sized apron I'd bought him. "Is Aunt Amanda going to be there?" he asked as we stirred the simmering cranberries. The question gave me pause. Amanda had missed the last few family gatherings, always with some last-minute excuse. "I'm not sure, buddy," I answered honestly, "but Grandma and Grandpa will definitely be there." 3 days before Thanksgiving, I received a strange call from my mother. "Morgan, dear," she began, her voice having that overly casual tone that always signaled something uncomfortable coming. "I was just wondering, is it really necessary for you to come on Thursday?" I nearly dropped my phone. "What do you mean, Mom? It's Thanksgiving." Yes, of course." She backpedaled quickly. "I just thought, well, you're so busy with work and the drive can be tiring." "Mom, it's a 40-minute drive, and I've already taken Thursday and Friday off." I said, confusion mounting. "Is something wrong?" No, everything's fine," she insisted. "Just checking. We'll see you Thursday then. Around 2. After hanging up, I stared at my phone, bewildered. What was that about? I wondered if perhaps they were planning some sort of surprise for me, though that seemed unlikely given our family history. 2 days before Thanksgiving, I called my father to confirm our arrival time. "Dad, we're still on for 2 o'clock Thursday, right?" There was a pause before he answered. "Yes, that's right." Then, awkwardly, "Listen, Morgan, there's something you should know. Amanda is going through a rough patch right now." My heart sank. Here we go again. "What happened this time?" I asked, trying to keep the weariness from my voice. "She and that boyfriend of hers, Craig, broke up. Pretty nasty situation. She's moved back home temporarily." "I'm sorry to hear that," I said, and I genuinely was. Despite everything, Amanda was still my sister. "Is there anything I can do to help?" No, he said quickly. "Just be understanding if she seems a bit off on Thursday. Your mother's worried about tension. Dad, I always try to get along with Amanda, I said, a defensive edge creeping into my voice. I'm not the one who creates drama. I know, sweetheart, he sighed. Just, it's a difficult time. The day before Thanksgiving, I received a text from my mother. Morgan, would it be possible for you to come at 3 instead of 2? Need extra time to prepare. My suspicions were growing stronger, but I replied with a simple, sure, Mom. No problem. I showed the text to my friend Rachel when we met for coffee that afternoon. That's weird, she said, frowning, especially after she asked if you needed to come at all. Something's up. Maybe they're having money problems again, I suggested. I did notice my father hasn't cashed the check I sent for their property taxes. Rachel gave me a long look. Morgan, you're too good to them, especially considering how they favor your sister. I shrugged uncomfortably. Rachel had witnessed enough of my family dynamics over the years to have strong opinions about them. Their family, I said, my standard response. Family should be a two-way street, Rachel countered. Just be careful, okay? Don't let them take advantage of your kindness. Thanksgiving morning dawned bright and clear. Ethan woke me up early, bouncing on my bed with excitement. Mom, it's turkey day. I laughed, pulling him in for a cuddle. Yes, it is, buddy. Happy Thanksgiving. We spent the morning in our pajamas, watching the Macy's parade on TV. I prepared 2 pumpkin pies the night before, and the house smelled of cinnamon and nutmeg. Around noon we started getting ready. Do you think Grandma made those special rolls? Ethan asked as I helped him button his shirt. I bet she did. I smiled, remembering how he devoured 3 of them last Christmas. And will Uncle Thomas and Aunt Lily be there? He continued, referring to my father's brother and his wife, who sometimes joined for holidays. Maybe, I said. We'll find out when we get there. As I applied my makeup, I tried to shake off the uneasy feeling that had been building. It's just a family dinner, I told myself. Whatever's going on with Amanda, we can handle it for one afternoon. Ethan carefully carried the cranberry sauce to the car while I followed with the pies. His face was so full of innocent excitement that I resolved to make this a good day, regardless of any family undercurrents. Ready for Thanksgiving, buddy? I asked as I buckled him into his booster seat. Ready, he exclaimed, giving me a thumbs up. I had no idea what was waiting for us at my parents' house, but for Ethan's sake, I was determined to handle it with grace. When we pulled into my parents' driveway at exactly 3 p.m., I immediately noticed several unfamiliar cars parked along the street. Strange, I thought. Mom hadn't mentioned extended family or friends joining us. Look, Ethan, I said, pointing to a blue sedan. I think that's Uncle Thomas and Aunt Lily's car. They did come after all. Ethan's face lit up. He adored my uncle, who always brought small toys and had endless patience for 6-year-old energy. We gathered our contributions, the cranberry sauce, pies, and carefully wrapped gifts, and made our way to the front door. Before I could knock, the door swung open to reveal my father, looking uncomfortable in a sweater I'd bought him last Christmas. Morgan, Ethan. He greeted us with a strained smile. Come in, come in. The house smelled wonderful, roasting turkey, sage stuffing, and my mother's famous dinner rolls. But something fell off. The usual warm welcome was missing, replaced by an awkward tension that was impossible to miss. Where should I put these, Grandpa? Ethan asked, holding up the cranberry sauce with both hands. Kitchen. Buddy, my father replied, ruffling Ethan's hair. Grandma's in there. As Ethan scampered off toward the kitchen, I turned to my father. Is everything okay, Dad? You seem tense. Before he could answer, my mother emerged from the kitchen, wiping her hands on her apron. She gave me a quick, nervous hug. Morgan, you're right on time. Dinner's almost ready. Her eyes darted around, not quite meeting mine. I heard voices and laughter from the living room. Definitely more people than I'd expected. Who else is here? I asked. Oh, just family, my mother said vaguely. Thomas and Lily, cousin Patricia and her husband, your Aunt Sarah. As she spoke, I caught sight of Ethan returning from the kitchen, his expression confused. Before I could ask what was wrong, a familiar voice cut through the hallway. What is this doing here? Amanda stood at the entrance to the living room, arms crossed, glaring at me with undisguised hostility. Her hair was different, dyed black with purple tips, and she'd lost weight since I'd last seen her, but the look of contempt was one I recognized all too well. My mother's hand fluttered to her throat. Amanda, please. It's Thanksgiving. You said she wasn't coming, Amanda accused, pointing at me as if I were an intruder. You promised. I felt as though I'd been slapped. What? I turned to my parents. What is she talking about? My father stepped forward, hands raised placatingly. Now girls, let's not do this in the hallway. Everyone's waiting to eat. I'm not sitting at the same table as her, Amanda declared dramatically. You know what she did? Completely baffled, I shook my head. Amanda, I have no idea what you're talking about. I haven't even seen you in months. Oh, don't play innocent, she sneered. It's what you've always done. Act perfect while making my life hell. By now, Ethan had retreated to my side, his small hand slipping into mine. I could feel him trembling slightly. Mom, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. What's going on? Why is Amanda acting like this? My mother looked at the floor, then at my father, then finally at me. Morgan, maybe this isn't a good day after all. I stood there, stunned, as the implication of her words sank in. Are you asking us to leave? From the living room, I heard hushed voices and the scrape of chairs. My Uncle Thomas appeared behind Amanda, looking concerned. Everything okay out here? He asked, taking in the scene.
No, Amanda snapped.
They invited her after telling me she wouldn't be here. Thomas looked confused. Morgan, but she always comes to family gatherings. Not anymore, Amanda declared. Not after what she's done. What exactly am I supposed to have done? I demanded, my confusion giving way to anger. Amanda's eyes narrowed. Like you don't know. You've always tried to make me look bad. Telling everyone how I'm irresponsible. How I'm a burden. Making up lies about me to the family. I was speechless. I hadn't spoken ill of Amanda to anyone except perhaps Rachel. Certainly not to extended family. Amanda, that's not true, I said firmly. I haven't said anything about you to anyone. Liar, she shouted, causing Ethan to press closer to me. Everyone's been treating me differently. Looking at me like I'm some kind of failure. And it started right after you had lunch with Aunt Sarah last month. I remembered that lunch. A casual catch-up where we'd mostly discussed Ethan's school and my work. Amanda had barely come up. Aunt Sarah now appeared behind Thomas. Amanda, honey, Morgan didn't say anything bad about you. We were just concerned because... See, Amanda interrupted. She's turned all of you against me. My mother stepped between us. Please, let's not do this today. Then, to my complete shock, she turned to me and said quietly, Morgan, maybe it would be better if you and Ethan came another time. Amanda needs us right now. The betrayal hit me like a physical blow. Mom, you can't be serious. You're asking us to leave? On Thanksgiving, my father cleared his throat. Just this once, Morgan. Amanda's going through a really difficult time, and the doctor says stress could trigger another episode. Another episode? I repeated, what are you talking about? She doesn't need to know my business, Amanda interjected. Just get her out of here. Mom, Ethan whispered, tugging on my hand. Why is Aunt Amanda mad? Why is everyone fighting? His innocent question broke my heart. This was supposed to be a special day for him. I don't understand, I said, looking from my mother to my father. You invited us. We brought food. Ethan's been looking forward to this for weeks. I know, dear, my mother said, not meeting my eyes. But family has to come first. The irony of her statement wasn't lost on me. I am family, Mom. We are family. My father put his arm around my mother. Of course you are. But right now, Amanda needs special consideration. You understand. You've always been the strong one. From the living room came Cousin Patricia's voice. Is dinner ready? The kids are getting hungry. It will be just a few more minutes, my mother called back, her voice unnaturally bright. Then turning to me, she added in a lower tone, we can pack some food for you to take home. I stood there, holding Ethan's hand, feeling humiliated and betrayed. They were really going to do this. Kick us out to placate Amanda's inexplicable tantrum. You're choosing her over us, I stated flatly. Again. It's not like that, my father protested weakly. It's just for today. You're not welcome at our family party. Amanda declared with finality. So take your brat and go. At the word brat, something in me snapped. I could take the insults directed at me, but not at my son. Ethan is your nephew, I said, my voice dangerously quiet. He has done nothing to deserve being spoken about that way. Amanda rolled her eyes. Whatever. Just leave. I looked at my parents, waiting for them to defend us, to put Amanda in her place. Instead, my mother said, I'll wrap up some turkey and potatoes for you. And please take your pies. We have plenty of dessert. In that moment, I saw my family clearly for perhaps the first time. I'd been making excuses for their behavior for years, telling myself that blood was thicker than water, that family stuck together no matter what. But this wasn't family, not in any meaningful sense of the word. No need, I said coldly. Keep the food, keep the gifts, keep everything. I turned to Ethan, whose eyes were now brimming with tears. Come on, buddy. We're going to have our own Thanksgiving. But Mom, he protested weakly. What about Grandma's rolls? My mother flinched at that, but said nothing. We'll make our own rolls, I promised him. Better ones. As we turned to leave, Amanda smirked triumphantly. My parents looked uncomfortable, but made no move to stop us. Only Uncle Thomas stepped forward. Morgan, wait. He began, but I cut him off with a shake of my head. Enjoy your dinner, I said, my voice steady despite the lump in my throat. Don't worry about us. We'll be fine. And with that, I guided Ethan back out the door, leaving behind the cranberry sauce, the pies, and the gifts, along with whatever illusions I still harbored about my family. The first few minutes in the car were silent, except for Ethan's sniffles from the back seat. I gripped the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white, focusing on the road ahead rather than the tears threatening to spill over. Mom? Ethan's small voice finally broke the silence. Why were Grandma and Grandpa mean to us? I glanced in the rearview mirror at his confused face. How do you explain toxic family dynamics to a 6-year-old? They weren't being nice today, I said carefully. Sometimes grown-ups make bad choices. But it's Thanksgiving, he persisted, his brow furrowed. We're supposed to be together on Thanksgiving. That's what you always say. I know, buddy, my voice caught. That's how it should be. Did I do something wrong? Is that why they wanted us to go? His question pierced my heart. No, Ethan. You did absolutely nothing wrong. This isn't about you. Then why? I couldn't drive anymore. Pulling into a park we often visited, I parked the car and turned to face him. Sometimes family relationships are complicated. Aunt Amanda is upset about something, and Grandma and Grandpa are trying to make her feel better. They made a mistake by asking us to leave. Ethan considered this. Aunt Amanda was really mad. Yes, she was. She called me a brat. His lower lip trembled. I unbuckled my seatbelt and reached back to take his hand. And that was very wrong of her. You are not a brat. You're a wonderful, kind, smart boy, and anyone would be lucky to spend Thanksgiving with you. He nodded, not entirely convinced. Can we still have turkey? Despite everything, I found myself smiling. Absolutely. We'll have our own special Thanksgiving dinner. As Ethan looked out the window at the empty playground, I pulled out my phone. 5 missed calls, 3 from my mother, 1 from my father, and 1 from Uncle Thomas. Several text messages, too. Mom. Morgan, please understand. Amanda needs us right now. Mom. Call me when you get home safely. Dad, don't be upset. We'll make it up to you. Thomas, what happened was wrong. Call me later. I put the phone away without responding. Opening my banking app, I scrolled through months of transactions, automatic payments to my parents' mortgage company, their utility providers, their insurance company. 5 years of financial support, totaling over $2,000 every month. I found myself thinking about all the birthdays and holidays I'd made special for my parents despite my own tight budget in the early years of single motherhood. The Christmas I'd scraped together enough for a weekend trip to New York so they could see the Nutcracker on Broadway. The anniversary dinner I'd arranged at their favorite restaurant when my father turned 60. The countless times I'd put their needs before my own. And for what? To be tossed aside the moment Amanda threw a tantrum? A memory surfaced, my mother's tearful gratitude when I'd first offered to help with their mortgage after my father's heart attack. We don't know what we'd do without you, Morgan, she'd said, hugging me tight. You've always been our rock. Their rock. Their reliable daughter. Their personal ATM. My phone buzzed with another text from my mother. I've packed a plate for you and Ethan. Your father can drop it off later. The audacity was almost laughable. They kick us out of Thanksgiving dinner, then offer leftovers like some consolation prize. Ethan had unbuckled his seatbelt and moved to the window, watching a squirrel dart around the park. His resilience amazed me, already finding something interesting despite his disappointment. My phone rang again. Not my parents this time, but my Aunt Sarah. After a moment's hesitation, I answered. "Morgan, are you okay?" Her voice was concerned. "Not really," I admitted. "Did they tell you what happened?" "I saw it all," she said grimly. "It was horrible how they treated you and Ethan. I tried to say something after you left, but Amanda started crying and everyone got distracted." "What is she even talking about, Sarah?" "I haven't said anything bad about her to anyone." Sarah sighed heavily. "It's all in her head, honey. She's been telling everyone that you're spreading rumors about her, trying to turn the family against her. Nobody believes it. At least nobody with sense. But your parents are walking on eggshells around her. Why would she make that up?" Answered, momentarily forgetting his disappointment as he held up the corresponding number of fingers. "My nephew is 6'2", Sophie said. He was really looking forward to playing with his cousins today. As we chatted in the frozen foods aisle, I found myself warming to Sophie's friendly, straightforward manner. When she mentioned she lived just a few blocks from us, it seemed like more than coincidence. "This might sound strange," Sophie said as we headed toward checkout, "but would you two like to join me for dinner? I've got all this food and it seems silly to eat alone when you're in the same boat." I hesitated, looking at Ethan. "That's very kind, but we wouldn't want to impose." "It's not an imposition at all," Sophie insisted. "Actually, you'd be doing me a favor. Thanksgiving alone is pretty depressing." Ethan tugged at my sleeve. "Can we, Mom? Please?" Looking at his hopeful face, I made a decision. "If you're sure, we'd love to." We agreed to follow Sophie to her house after checking out. As we loaded our groceries into the car, I found myself feeling lighter than I had all day. Sometimes kindness comes from unexpected places. Sophie's home was a charming craftsman-style house with a bright red door. Inside, it was warm and inviting, not perfectly tidy, but comfortable with books stacked on end tables and colorful artwork on the walls. "Make yourselves at home," Sophie said, leading us to the kitchen. "I'm no gourmet chef, but I can handle a rotisserie chicken." As we prepared our improvised Thanksgiving dinner together, I learned that Sophie was a pediatric nurse who had recently moved back to town after a divorce. She was easy to talk to, laughing at Ethan's jokes and never prying when I gave vague answers about our original Thanksgiving plans. By the time we sat down to eat, Ethan had completely forgotten his earlier disappointment. He proudly arranged the dinner rolls in a basket as Sophie carved the chicken and I mixed the instant mashed potatoes. "Should we say what we're thankful for?" Sophie suggested as we settled at her dining table, which she'd quickly set with mismatched plates and candles. "I'll go first." Ethan volunteered. "I'm thankful for chicken that tastes like turkey and new friends and ice cream." Sophie and I laughed. "I'm thankful for unexpected guests making this holiday special," she said. When my turn came, I felt a lump in my throat. "I'm thankful for kind strangers and new beginnings." Throughout dinner, my phone continued vibrating in my purse. I ignored it, focusing instead on the genuine warmth of our improvised celebration. After we'd finished eating and Ethan was contentedly watching a holiday movie in Sophie's living room, I finally checked my messages. 23 texts and 11 missed calls. Most from my parents, but also from Amanda, Uncle Thomas, and Aunt Sarah. The latest text from my mother read, "Morgan, please respond. We're worried about you." I stepped onto Sophie's back porch for privacy and called my friend Rachel. "Oh my God, Morgan," she answered immediately. "Where have you been? I've been trying to reach you for hours." "Sorry, I silenced my phone. It's been a day. Your mom called me, asking if I'd heard from you. She said there was a misunderstanding at Thanksgiving dinner." "What happened?" I gave her the condensed version, my voice shaking at times as I recounted the humiliation of being asked to leave. Those manipulative, ungrateful. Rachel's outrage on my behalf was validating. "And they took $5,000 from you today? After kicking you out?" "Apparently Amanda needed it for debts," I said bitterly. "Morgan, this has to stop. They're using you." I know, I sighed. "I think I've always known, but today made it impossible to ignore." "So what are you going to do?" I leaned against the porch railing, watching the stars emerge in the evening sky. "I'm not sure yet, but things need to change." After hanging up, I texted my mother. "Ethan and I are safe. We'll contact you tomorrow." Then I composed an email to my parents, describing in detail the years of financial support I provided and how deeply hurt I was by today's events. I didn't send it. It needed editing when I wasn't so emotional, but drafting it helped clarify my thoughts. Back inside, I found Sophie cleaning up while Ethan dozed on the couch. He crashed hard, she said with a smile. Too much excitement and pie. Thank you for this, I said sincerely. You saved our Thanksgiving. Mutual rescue, Sophie replied. Would have been a lonely night otherwise. As we chatted while washing dishes, I found myself sharing more about what had happened with my family. Sophie listened without judgment, occasionally nodding in understanding. Family dynamics can be so complicated, she said finally. But sometimes distance is the healthiest option. I'm starting to realize that, I admitted. By the time I carried a sleeping Ethan to the car, Sophie and I had exchanged phone numbers and made tentative plans for a playdate with her nephew. Driving home, I felt an odd mix of emotions, residual hurt from my family's betrayal, but also a strange sense of freedom. For years, I'd been carrying the weight of my parents' financial needs and Amanda's dramas. What might life be like without that burden? When we arrived home, I tucked Ethan into bed and then sat at my kitchen table with my laptop. First, I transferred the remaining money from the joint account with my parents into my personal account. Then I drafted an email to my financial advisor requesting an urgent meeting. Finally, I wrote a new, calmer email to my parents. Mom and Dad, today was deeply hurtful and disrespectful to both Ethan and me. I need some time to process what happened and what it means for our relationship going forward. Please do not contact me for a few days. I will reach out when I'm ready to talk. Regarding the $5,000 withdrawal, I expect a full explanation of how this money was used. In the meantime, I've closed our joint account and will be reconsidering our financial arrangement. Morgan. I read it twice, then pressed send before I could second-guess myself. The next morning, I called my office and requested 2 personal days. I needed time to sort things out and create a plan moving forward. As Ethan played with his Legos, I made a detailed list of all the financial support I'd provided my parents, complete with dates and amounts. The total was staggering, over $150,000 when including medical expenses, home repairs, and the monthly bills. For comparison, I created a second column listing what I'd received in return, occasional babysitting, birthday cards, and criticism of my parenting. Seeing it laid out so clearly made my decision easier. By the time my financial advisor called back, I was ready to discuss options for disentangling my finances from my parents without leaving them destitute. We can set up a decreasing support structure, he suggested. Reduce payments gradually over 6 months to give them time to adjust. That sounds reasonable. I agreed. I want everything documented formally. 3 days after Thanksgiving, I received a detailed voicemail from Aunt Sarah. She'd learned from Uncle Thomas that my parents had been taking credit for helping Amanda financially, using my money while making it seem like their own generosity. They told everyone at Thanksgiving dinner after you left how they'd paid for Amanda's last rehab stay. Sarah reported indignantly. I know for a fact that was your money, Morgan. This has to stop. Armed with this final confirmation, I was ready to confront my parents. I arranged for Ethan to have a playdate with Sophie's nephew and drove to my parents' house, my documentation in a folder beside me. It was time to set new boundaries, not just for my sake but for Ethan's. He deserved better than to witness his mother being disrespected and taken advantage of by the people who should love her most. As I pulled into their driveway, I felt surprisingly calm. Whatever happened next, I knew I was doing the right thing. The days of being the family ATM while receiving nothing but criticism in return were officially over. I sat in my car outside my parents' house for several minutes, gathering my courage. The folder of financial documents on the passenger seat represented years of one-sided giving. Part of me wanted to simply mail it to them and cut contact entirely, but I knew that wouldn't provide the closure I needed. Taking a deep breath, I grabbed the folder and approached the front door. Before I could knock, it swung open to reveal my mother, looking simultaneously relieved and anxious. Morgan, thank goodness. We've been so worried. May I come in? I asked formally, maintaining emotional distance. Of course, she stepped aside. Your father's in the living room. We thought you might come today. The house looked exactly the same as it had on Thanksgiving, though the festive decoration seemed almost mocking now. My father rose from his recliner as I entered, his expression hard to read. Morgan, he nodded. Good to see you. Is Amanda here? I asked, remaining standing even as they sat down. No, she's out, my mother replied quickly. Morgan, about Thanksgiving. Before we discuss that, I interrupted. I'd like to talk about this. I opened the folder and placed a spreadsheet on the coffee table between us. This is a record of all the financial support I've provided over the past 5 years. My parents glanced at each other uneasily but didn't touch the document. We know you've been generous, my father began. And we appreciate $153,742, I stated flatly. That's the total, including the $5,000 you withdrew without discussing with me first. My mother's hand fluttered to her throat. That can't be right. It is right, I said, pulling out bank statements. Here's every mortgage payment. Here are the utility bills. Here are the medical expenses, car payments, home repairs, and cash transfers. 5 years of supporting this household. My father cleared his throat. Now Morgan. Family helps family. When you needed babysitting, I've calculated that too. I continued, pulling out another paper. Based on standard rates, the babysitting you've provided would be worth approximately $2,800. That leaves a difference of $150,942. We're not keeping score, my mother protested weakly. Apparently not, I replied. Because if you were, you might have thought twice before humiliating me and your grandson on Thanksgiving. They at least had the grace to look ashamed at that. Amanda was in a state, my father explained. The doctor said another episode could. What exactly is wrong with Amanda? I asked directly. You keep referring to episodes but never explain. My parents exchanged glances again. My mother sighed. She's been diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. The doctors say it explains the mood swings, the substance abuse, the inability to maintain relationships. This was the first I'd heard of any formal diagnosis. When did this happen? About a year ago, my father admitted. After that incident at Christmas. I remembered the incident. Amanda showing up 3 hours late, clearly intoxicated, picking a fight with my mother and storming out. I hadn't known there was a diagnosis that followed. Why didn't you tell me? Amanda didn't want anyone to know, my mother explained. She was embarrassed. So instead, you let me believe she was just being Amanda, I said incredulously. You let me believe she was choosing to be difficult rather than struggling with a mental health condition. We were respecting her privacy, my father insisted. I shook my head in disbelief. Do you have any idea how that affected my perception of both her and you? For years, I've watched you enable what I thought was simply bad behavior. We were trying to help her, my mother said defensively. By using my money without telling me what it was really for? By letting her believe you were the one supporting her? By allowing her to treat me like an enemy? Before either could respond, the front door opened and Amanda walked in. She froze when she saw me, her eyes narrowing immediately. What is she doing here? She demanded, the hostility in her voice unchanged from Thanksgiving. Amanda, please. My mother began wearily. We're trying to sort things out. Amanda stalked into the living room, noticing the papers spread across the coffee table. What's all this? Financial records, I said calmly. I've been supporting this household for 5 years. Amanda's eyes widened briefly before her expression hardened again. So you're here to hold that over everyone's heads? Typical Morgan. Always needing to prove she's better than everyone else. That's not why I'm here, I replied, maintaining my composure. I'm here because I deserve respect, and so does my son. What happened on Thanksgiving was unacceptable. Oh boo-hoo. Amanda mocked. Poor perfect Morgan didn't get her perfect Thanksgiving. I studied my sister, really looked at her for perhaps the first time in years. Behind the hostility, I could see something else. Pain, fear, and a desperate need to be validated. Understanding her diagnosis helped contextualize her behavior, but it didn't excuse it. Amanda, I said quietly, I know about your diagnosis. She paled visibly, shooting an accusatory glance at our parents. You told her? After you promised? They didn't have to, I replied. You've been telling me yourself for years through your actions. I just didn't have the right context to understand. Don't psychoanalyze me, she snapped. You have no idea what I've been going through. You're right, I acknowledged. I don't. Because no one in this family actually communicates honestly. I turned back to my parents. I didn't come here to argue or to demand repayment. I came to inform you that our financial arrangement is changing. My father leaned forward, suddenly alert. What do you mean? I mean I will no longer be supporting this household as I have been, I stated firmly. I've spoken with my financial advisor, and we've created a 6-month transition plan. During that time, my contributions will gradually decrease until they stop completely. You can't do that, my mother protested, panic edging into her voice. Your father's health. My financial advisor will help you explore other options, I continued. Reverse mortgage, downsizing, retirement account adjustments. You have choices that don't involve relying on me. This is because of one bad day? My father asked incredulously. One misunderstanding and you're cutting us off? This isn't about Thanksgiving, I clarified. Thanksgiving was simply the moment I finally saw our relationship clearly. This is about years of taking me for granted, of accepting my money while giving Amanda credit, of prioritizing her needs over mine and Ethan's at every turn. Amanda made a dismissive sound. So, it is about the money? You're just proving my point. I turned to her directly. Amanda, do you know who paid for your last rehab stay? She rolled her eyes. Mom and Dad, obviously.
No, y.
Said gently. I did. The same way I paid for the 3 stays before that. The same way I paid for the therapy you quit after 2 sessions. The same way I've been paying the mortgage on this house where you're currently living rent-free. Amanda looked stunned, her gaze darting to our parents for confirmation. Their silence was answer enough. You let me believe, she started, then stopped processing this revelation. Yes, I confirmed. They let you believe they were supporting you financially. Just like they let me believe you were just being difficult rather than struggling with BPD. For a moment, genuine hurt flashed across Amanda's face before her defensive wall came back up. So what, now you want me to thank you? To worship the ground you walk on because you're so generous? No, I said simply. I want honesty. And I want respect for myself and for my son. I stood up, gathering my documentation. The transition plan starts next month. My financial advisor will contact you to discuss options. Morgan, please, my mother pleaded. We can't manage without your help. You can, I assured her. You're both intelligent, capable adults with resources and options. You've become dependent on my support, but that doesn't mean you need it. My father's expression had shifted from disbelief to anger. So that's it? After everything we've done for you, you're just walking away? The irony of his statement was almost laughable. I'm not walking away from this family. I'm establishing boundaries that should have existed long ago. I turned to leave, but Amanda stepped into my path. You think you're so perfect, don't you? With your successful career and your perfect kid in your big house. Some of us have real problems, Morgan. I looked directly into my sister's eyes. I know you're in pain, Amanda. And I'm sorry for that. I truly am. But your pain doesn't give you the right to inflict pain on others. Especially not on an innocent 6-year-old who adores his grandparents and was heartbroken to be rejected by them. For a brief moment, something like shame flickered across Amanda's face. I hope you get the help you need. I continued. And I hope someday we can have a relationship based on mutual respect. But until then, I need to protect myself and my son. As I walked toward the door, my mother followed me, tears streaming down her face. What about Christmas? What about Ethan's pageant? I paused at the threshold. Ethan and I will be spending Christmas creating our own traditions this year. As for the pageant, you're welcome to attend. As grandparents who respect his mother. 3 days later, I received a lengthy email from Amanda. Amid the defensiveness and accusations was a kernel of genuine reflection and acknowledgement that her behavior on Thanksgiving had been out of line, and that she was working on things with a new therapist. A week after that, my parents left a voicemail inviting Ethan and me to dinner. Just the 4 of us. I declined but suggested meeting at a neutral location. A restaurant. The following week instead. That dinner was awkward and strained, but it was a start. My father complained about having to cut expenses. My mother asked too many probing questions about my life. But they both made an effort with Ethan, which was what mattered most to me. As December progressed, I maintained my boundaries firmly, but not cruelly. I attended Ethan's school pageant and acknowledged my parents cordially when they showed up. I declined their Christmas invitation, but allowed them to visit briefly on Christmas Eve to exchange gifts with Ethan. Step by step, day by day, I was creating a new relationship with my family. one based on mutual respect rather than financial dependence. It wasn't easy and there were many difficult conversations ahead, but for the first time in years I felt like I was standing on solid ground. The most surprising development came from Amanda, who sent Ethan a handmade card apologizing for being mean on Turkey Day and promising to be a better aunt. It was a small gesture, but it gave me hope that perhaps with time and proper treatment, even that damaged relationship might someday heal. 1 month after the Thanksgiving disaster, Ethan and I had settled into a new routine. Our mornings felt lighter somehow, as if the weight of my family's expectations had been physically lifted. We made pancakes on Sundays, visited the library on Wednesdays, and had started a tradition of Adventure Saturdays, where we explored different parts of our city. "Mom, can we go to the Holiday Light Festival this weekend?" Ethan asked one morning as I packed his lunch. "Absolutely," I replied. "And maybe we can invite Sophie and her nephew Tyler?" Ethan's face lit up. "Yes," Tyler said, "he's never been." My friendship with Sophie had deepened over the past month. What started as a chance meeting had evolved into a genuine connection. Her straightforward kindness was refreshing after years of navigating my family's complex dynamics. "Morgan, you've got to stop apologizing for taking up space in other people's lives," she told me during a recent coffee date. "True relationships aren't transactional." Her words had stayed with me, making me realize how much of my identity had been shaped by being the responsible one, the fixer, the financial support system for my family. Without those roles, who was I? I'd started therapy the week after Thanksgiving, something I'd considered for years but never prioritized. Dear Levine was helping me untangle the complicated emotions surrounding my family relationships. "You didn't cause your sister's mental health issues," she reminded me during our last session. "And you can't cure them. The same goes for your parents' financial dependence." Accepting those truths was an ongoing process. Some days were easier than others. My parents had initially reacted to the financial transition plan with a mixture of disbelief and desperation. The first reduction in support had triggered a flurry of phone calls and guilt-laden texts. I'd held firm, directing them to the financial advisor who was genuinely trying to help them restructure their finances. "We might have to sell the house," my father had admitted grudgingly during our last conversation. "Downsizing might be a practical solution," I'd responded neutrally, resisting the urge to offer solutions or exceptions. It wasn't easy watching them struggle, but I reminded myself that these were natural consequences of their choices, not punishment I was inflicting. Ethan, resilient as ever, had adjusted to the changes in family dynamics with remarkable adaptability. He still asked about his grandparents occasionally but seemed content with our structured, limited visits. The last time we'd met them for lunch, he chatted happily about school and his new friend Tyler, seemingly unbothered by the underlying tension between the adults. Amanda had been notably absent from these encounters. According to my mother, she was really focusing on her treatment, attending therapy twice weekly, and participating in a structured outpatient program. I'd received a few more messages from her, ranging from genuine apologies to passive-aggressive jabs. I responded to the former with encouragement and ignored the latter. As Christmas approached, the invitations from my parents became more insistent. "It's tradition," my mother pleaded over the phone. "Ethan should be with family for Christmas." "We are creating our own traditions this year," I explained for what felt like the 100th time. "But you're welcome to join us for Christmas Eve dinner if you'd like." To my surprise, they accepted. Even more surprisingly, they arrived on time, with appropriate gifts for Ethan and without the usual undercurrent of criticism. The evening wasn't perfect. My father made a few pointed comments about their budget constraints, but it was manageable. When they left, my mother hugged me tentatively. "Thank you for including us," she said, with what seemed like genuine gratitude. That night, after Ethan went to bed vibrating with Christmas Eve excitement, I sat by our small tree, reflecting on the journey of the past month. The pain of Thanksgiving had not disappeared, but it had transformed into something different, a catalyst for necessary change. For Christmas dinner, we hosted a gathering of friends, Sophie and her nephew, 2 couples from work with their children, and Rachel and her husband. Our house was filled with laughter, honest conversation, and the warm feeling of chosen family. "This is the best Christmas ever," Ethan declared as he played with the other children. Looking around at the people who had shown up for us without conditions or expectations, I was inclined to agree. In therapy, Dr. Levine had asked me to identify what I'd learned from the Thanksgiving experience. At first, my answers had been bitter. Don't trust family. Everyone is ultimately selfish. But as the weeks passed, more nuanced realizations emerged. I'd learned that boundaries weren't selfish, but necessary for healthy relationships. I discovered that my worth wasn't tied to what I could provide financially or emotionally for others. I'd recognized that family could be defined by love and respect rather than blood ties alone. Most importantly, I'd learned that breaking toxic cycles required courage, but brought peace that was worth the temporary pain. When January arrived, I received an unexpected email from Amanda. She was moving to Colorado to participate in a specialized treatment program for BPD. I need a fresh start, she wrote, away from the dynamics here. Maybe someday we can have a real relationship as sisters, but first I need to work on myself. It was perhaps the most honest communication we'd ever had. I wished her well and meant it. My parents were slowly adjusting to their new financial reality. They'd listed their house and were looking at condos in a nearby retirement community. A practical decision they probably should have made years ago. Our relationship remained tentative, but was evolving into something more balanced. One evening, as Ethan and I made dinner together, he asked a question that caught me off guard. Mom, are we still a family even though it's just us? I put down the spoon I was holding and knelt to his level. Absolutely. Families come in all sizes and shapes. Sometimes it's a mom and a dad and kids. Sometimes it's two moms or two dads. Sometimes it's grandparents raising children. And sometimes, like us, it's a mom and her amazing son. He considered this, then nodded. We're still a family, just me and you. That's right, I agreed, hugging him close. And we have our chosen family too. People like Sophie and Tyler and Rachel who love us just as we are. His simple wisdom reminded me of what truly mattered. The painful experience of Thanksgiving had ultimately led us to a healthier place. One where we were surrounded by genuine love, rather than conditional acceptance. As I tucked Ethan into bed that night, I realized that the greatest gift from the whole ordeal was the lesson it would impart to him. That he deserved respect. That boundaries were healthy and that true family, whether related by blood or by choice, supported rather than diminished each other. The journey of healing wasn't over. There would be more difficult conversations, more boundaries to maintain, more growth to pursue. But for the first time in years, I was facing the future with genuine hope rather than obligation. Sometimes the most meaningful gratitude comes not from what we give to others, but from what we finally allow ourselves to receive. Respect, authentic connection, and the peace that comes from breaking toxic cycles. And if my parents and sister someday truly understood that, perhaps we could build something new together. Not because of obligation or financial dependence, but because of mutual respect and genuine care. Until then, Ethan and I would continue creating our own traditions, defining family on our own terms. Have you ever had to set difficult boundaries with family members? How did you handle it? I'd love to hear your experiences in the comments. And if this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share with someone who might need to hear that it's okay to prioritize their own well-being. Thank you for listening to my journey. And remember, sometimes the most loving thing you can do, both for yourself and others, is to establish healthy boundaries.